Blood flow. All blood enters the right side of the heart through two veins, the superior vena cava (SVC) and the inferior vena cava (IVC). How this works? The SVC collects blood from the upper half of the body. The IVC collects blood from the lower half of the body. Blood leaves the SVC and the IVC and enters the right atrium, RA. Now we can see a video.
How the blood flows in the heart. Beating on average 70 times per minute, each day the heart beats about 100,000 times. In the course of a 70-year lifetime, it will beat more than 2.5 billion times without ever pausing to rest. The cycle of blood flow is as follows. The right atrium receives blood from the great veins, the superior and inferior vena cava. Blood passes from the right atrium through the tricuspid valve to the right ventricle. From the right ventricle, blood is pumped through the pulmonary valve and pulmonary arteries to the lungs. In the lungs, carbon dioxide is removed from the blood and oxygen is picked up. Through the pulmonary veins, oxygenated blood returns to the left atrium. From the left atrium, blood passes through the mitral valve to the left ventricle. As the left ventricle contracts, the pressure closes the mitral valve. The aortic valve opens, allowing blood to leave the heart via the main blood vessel called the aorta. When the cycle of pumping is complete, the aortic valve closes to prevent blood from dropping back into the heart. The heart is two separate pumps that work together. Oxygenated and nutrient-rich blood is pumped around the body. Deoxygenated blood, which contains waste products, is returned to the lungs to allow the entire cycle to begin again.
When the RA contracts, the blood goes through to the tricuspid valve and into the right ventricle, RV. When the RV contracts, blood is pumped through the pulmonary valve into the pulmonary artery and into the lungs where it picks up oxygen. Blood now returns to the heart from the lungs by way of the pulmonary veins and goes into the left atrium, LA. When the LA contracts, blood travels through the mitral valve and into the left ventricle. The LV is a very important chamber that pumps blood through the aortic valve and into the aorta. The aorta is the main artery of the body. It receives of the blood that the heart has pumped out and distributed into the rest of the body. The LV has a thicker muscle than any other heart chamber because it must pump blood to the rest of the body against much higher pressure in the general circulation, the blood pressure.
We believe that the good life begins at 40. These should be your best years. But aging can slow you down and can even impact your sex life. Most people don't realize that poor circulation and oxygen delivery is actually to blame. In men, erections are caused by an increase in blood flow to the penis. Problems getting or maintaining an erection are caused as we age when blood flow is not optimal. In women, sexual arousal issues are in part caused by lack of blood flow too. These are actually cardiovascular issues. Luckily, a miraculous molecule called nitric oxide can help. As we age, our bodies lose the ability to produce nitric oxide. In fact, by the time we reach 40, we're making less than half of what we need. The discovery of nitric oxide's role in cardiovascular health was awarded a Nobel Prize, and nitric oxide is now one of the most studied molecules in medical history. Nitric oxide is produced in the lining of our arteries and literally causes the surrounding tissues to relax. This causes dilation and helps blood and oxygen flow more freely. Circo-2 is a revolutionary new dietary supplement that helps the body restore its nitric oxide levels. Thus, it helps maintain healthy sexual function by supporting circulation where you need it most. Dr.
Pros and cons. The blood returning from the body is relatively poor in oxygen. It needs to be full of oxygen before being returned to the body, so the right side of the heart pumps blood to the lung first to pick up oxygen, before going to the left side of the heart where it's returning to the body full of oxygen. Poor blood circulation affects many areas of the body, but is most dangerous to the major organs in particular. The effects of the circulation problems on various body parts are as follows. First, brain. Reduced circulation to the brain reduces its capacity to function at optimal levels, resulting in poor memory and concentration, impaired clarity, lethargy, frequent headache, dizzy spell, and reduced alertness. 2. Heart. Poor blood flow to the heart can result in chest pain, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and the poor stamina with performing any form of exercise such as a short walk, which is likely to leave you somewhat breathless. As blood circulation problems are the result of many years of the poor lifestyle choices, it is important not to take lightly to threat to your health and seriousness of the problem. Make no mistake, if symptoms of circulation problems are ignorant, the next warning may well be a fatal heart attack.
So here we are with the heart. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how blood flows through the heart. And just taking a look at how our hearts are, it's quite a large heart, and that's nice because we are able to take a look at many of the chambers. But we're going to start here coming back from systemic circulation, and specifically we have to open up the heart itself to be able to kind of take a look inside the chamber. So this is our heart. Let's just get first orientated. This would then be considered the right side. This one would be considered the left side. And so we always start in the right side of the heart as it comes back from systemic circulation into this first chamber called the right atrium. And what you'll find is that the right atrium itself has 3 openings, kind of illustrating where all the blood came from. So up here we have the opening of what we call the superior vena cava, which is this vessel here, draining all the blood from above the heart and around the heart. And then down here you can actually see the gigantic hole of the inferior vena cava, which takes care of anything that's below the heart. You'll find that pretty much the inferior vena cava pierces the diaphragm and essentially enters the heart almost directly. And then the last one is if we have above the heart, around the heart, and below the heart, then this little guy right here, if you kind of take a look, this little hole, this would be considered what they call the coronary sinus, which actually takes blood directly from the heart. The myocardium, of course, has to have their own blood supply, so voila, we get our blood coming back from the myocardium from this hole and all pulling into the right atrium. We notice that we find the textured walls on the right atrium, and this will be considered what we call pectinate muscles. And so pectinate muscles help with the atrial kick, help push down the blood into the next area we're going to pass through, the tricuspid valve. So this is the tricuspid valve. It's also known as one of the AV valves, or atrioventricular valves, because of course it splits in between the atrium and the ventricles. Atrium, and here's the ventricle. And here we are now with what we call the right ventricle. I want to point this out right away that right and left do matter, because literally if you just say, oh, that's the ventricle, I'm going to be asking you right or left. So, because they are very different in both functionality of what they carry, but many of the structures are very similar. So as we step in here, this is the right ventricle, and some of the structures that are actually fairly remarkable are associated with the valve here. We'll notice some chordae tendineae, which are the tendinous strings or tendinous cords that come from the cusp of the valve, the tricuspid valve, attaching to specialized ridges of muscle. These are called papillary muscles. And so papillary muscles are here, and what they do is they help prevent prolapsing or regurgitation of blood into the atrium as they hold the cusp very, very tightly during ventricular contraction. So when the ventricles contract, the papillary muscles also contract, so they kind of hold the cusp so they don't blow back, or as we say, prolapse, or to prevent regurgitation of blood. So again, cusp of the valves, tricuspid valve, we get the chordae tendineae, we get the papillary muscles, and all this kind of like texture of this wall looks kind of like, I think it looks like Freddy Krueger's face, but this is all what we call trabeculae carnae. Trabeculae, you can imagine, it remembers from bone, but that's what we have, trabeculae carnae. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to exit out into what we call the pulmonary trunk, and we have to pass through a valve first, and this is actually found on this side. Keeping my hand here, this is the right side, as you can imagine. Right side is where my thumb is, and I'm going to flip this around. Notice I'm still in the right ventricle. This valve right here would be considered the pulmonary semilunar valve. So we're going to pump through here into what we call the pulmonary trunk, very, very large artery. And this pulmonary trunk right here is going to split into two, a right pulmonary artery, or sorry, this is a left pulmonary artery, and then the right one, as you can see from the posterior side, would be here. So each one correlate. What we're going to do is going to oxygenate ourselves as we go out to the lungs and then come right back via pulmonary veins. I know people are like, hey, veins aren't supposed to be red. Well, these are. Absolutely they are, because veins and arteries are defined not by what they carry, but by the direction of blood that they are going. And so if these guys are going blood away, then absolutely these are arteries, and if these bring in blood back to the heart, these are veins, so pulmonary veins. What they do is they end up into the left atrium, and voila, in the left atrium we have many of the same structures, like the pectineal muscles, the textured walls. And then now we're going to pass through what we call the bicuspid valve. Bicuspid, or also known as mitral. So once we step into here, we're back into the left.
Thank you.